Hello everybody, it's Natalia again. Nice to see you all. Today's topic will be concupiscence, a word that is well known among the older versions of the Bible, which signify strong desire. And oftentimes this word is correlated to sexual desire. However, desire itself can simply mean many things. It can mean hunger, thirst, desire to do good things for your own pleasure, desire to travel, desire to meet new people. But the Bible has a pretty strong opinion on what it means to have a strong desire, and concupiscence itself is a doctrine that basically sums that up. So, as you can see, in Romans chapter 7 verse 8, the word concupiscence signifies covetous desires. So to covet means to engage in sexual immorality or sexual misconduct, basically. Or in Colossians chapter 3 verse 5, if you're reading the NIV version of the Bible, means evil desires. Or passions of lust, according to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 5. And I'm gonna approach this in a more intellectual way. So I don't want to be. My intention of giving this talk is not to provide a sermon about concupiscence and why you should avoid it and why you should be wary with it. Because I personally think, and from what I was told and read in the Bible, in most theology, like the Protestant theology, Lutheran, Reformed, the other mainstream Protestant theologies, signify the word concupiscence as this really grand image, this grand concept where it's a result, your passion, your strong passion and craving for sexual intimacy or some other kinds of pleasure is a result of the sin that you inherited from Adam and Eve. And to be frank, I find this, this is just their perspective, but it's not really a complete explanation as to what concupiscence really is. If it is, by definition, concupiscence is to signify that it's a feeling, if it is a feeling that is inherited by Adam and Eve, it means it sort of has an pessimistic outlook of it, because God gave us God gave us desire for good. God gave us this desire for a good reason, which is to honor Him, which is to do good things, as a Christian, to your desire to desire is to do more good things. But to have a strong desire to cross the boundary of what God's desire to you is a perversion of the whole doctrine. So, if you're familiar with Athanasius, Saint Athanasius of Alexandria, I believe he was active sometime in the 4th century. He wrote a book called The Life of Saint Anthony. So Saint Anthony was a monk who battled with sexual desires and believed that it was actually a real demonic spirit in his heart. And that is something to be cleansed of, something to be gotten rid of. But it was never really emphasized. Athanasius well, at the time, the doctrine was basically Trinitarian, so it was wholly Roman Catholic. And Roman Catholic doctrine sums up that concupiscence in itself is not some kind of evil to be gotten rid of. And our being, our existence to be here, to contain that desire that God gave us, doesn't make us wholly evil creatures. So there's a lot of controversies surrounding this. Even philosophers like Plato, Aristotle talked a bit about the lower senses, or, well, if you'd like me to say, concupiscence. So Plato especially talked about the concupiscible sense, which of course signify pleasure seeking. And according to Plato, his idea of a concupiscible spirit is, well, first and foremost, sexual desire and desire for food, for comfort, and that desire is inherent within the belly or the lower genitals. It influences your psychology and your emotions. It is the lowest of all the three senses. Plato's structure of the soul is comprised of three tripartite structure. The first structure is the reason, or the nous, not nous. Nous is a mispronunciation of the Greek word nous. Second is the spirited, or the heart, which is aroused when somebody is feeling courageous, heated up with passion to face a certain confrontation or hurdle. And the third is that, which is a concupiscible sense. Well, Plato and Aristotle have quite a bit to say about the concupiscible spirit. So Plato regarded pleasure seeking as part of, still but not very obvious, part of the good life, as long as it is controlled and balanced. However, he believed at the same time that in order for us to maximize our full potential as humans, as God's creation, we not only have to maximize our mental capacity to think and to reason, but also to train the body. So Plato strongly believed that the physical aspect of the human body forms a connection in achieving enlightenment in the Christian sense. So even little things like kneeling, doing some a bit of heavy labor. You notice that in the Western, especially the Western tradition, Western monastic monks, the Benedictines, Franciscans, Dominicans, those are the Catholic monastic traditions. They actually take part in doing this heavy labor, and that is also a matter of self-discipline, which helps to enlighten the mind, because the body has a connection with the mind. Well, there are certainly misunderstandings about Plato and even Aristotle. Aristotle believed that we must also maximize our potential starting from our material form in order to maximize our capacity as human beings. But this is not so much a question of concupiscence anymore. This is more about how concupiscence in general, or a concupiscible spirit, can lead somebody to maximizing their potential, their whatever potential that is, spiritual, emotional, psychological, physical potential, to do good things. But speaking of monastics, right? Monastics, especially the Catholic tradition, have a really strong notion, strong understanding of celibacy, sexual celibacy. So, the idea of a sexual celibacy doesn't really work in Aristotelian thought, because the monastic tradition emphasized that, especially the Catholic tradition, sacrificed the idea for reproduction or procreation, which is the idea that the sort of the gift that God gave lay people or humans in general, to procreate, to reproduce their offsprings by forming a reunion, sexual reunion with another human being. So in a sense, that is something that perhaps might be worth thinking about. Although, of course, once somebody becomes a monastic, they have a different conception of what it means to be celibate, what it means to live a concupiscible, but at the same time, passionate life. There was this theologian, I can't remember the name, sorry, a theologian who quoted that man must need passion to achieve salvation to God. But of course, the passion that he was referring to was the passion for learning the gospel, for preaching the word of Christ, and so on and so forth. So, of course, the Greek noun of concupiscence means to yearn, to long. And it is a moral quality. The moral quality of somebody. Like our spirit, it is undeniable that we have desires, and we have to accept that fact that we have desires, because that is part of God's gift in the general understanding. And to live a virtuous Christian life, in this understanding of the Bible, means to control and attain a balance of the concupiscible, spirit. That is knowing what God has forbid, because once somebody has become enslaved to concupiscence, he or she will bear a soul that is depraved. So that's all. That's all about concupiscence. Let me know what you think. Peace out.